Well, tonight on the podcast, ladies and gentlemen, we got a doozy tonight. We're talking about the Supreme Court of the United States of America. They have struck down affirmative action being used in race-based admissions for colleges and universities. Now, at the end, I'm going to fully explain how the white supremacists played the three-card Monty using the Asian community and how what they just done actually screwed them. It didn't screw us, but it screwed them in many, many ways. But let's go on and get into this and just kind of build our case here like we normally do before we start going in. So let's get the background of who the guy is that was a part of all this. So this particular Asian American young man, his name was Jon Wang. He was 18 years old. Now, they say he had got a 1590 on his SAT and he had a 4.65 high school grade point average, but was rejected by 6 top schools. Now, of course, he was one of the plaintiffs in the Supreme Court case seeking to end the practice over claims that unfairly discriminates against high-performing Asian Americans. They say in January, the High Court said it would take up lawsuits, in which they did, from the anti-affirmative action group Students for Fair Admission, claiming that Harvard University, a private institution, and the University of North Carolina, a state school, discriminate against Asian American applicants. They say the suit had claimed that affirmative action policies meant to favor members of historically disadvantaged groups gives an edge to African Americans and Hispanics and Native Americans, and say over Asian students. Now, Mr. Wang said, despite his terrific scores and a perfect score on his math SAT, he was rejected by Harvard as well as MIT, Caltech, Princeton, Carnegie Mellon, and UC Berkeley. He was rejected by all those schools. Now, Mr. Wang, it said, who had come forward to speak at that time, said he was warned in advance that it's gospel, that it's tougher to get in, especially as an Asian American, by friends and guidance counselors. I wonder who they were, but I got a great idea who it was. They say Wang's parents are both immigrants from China, and said he felt pressure about advocating for himself publicly. Now, we're doing a lot of times, we talk about where people from, delineation, etc. And a lot of people are doing that within the black world, but you need to do it all over. Don't let them just say Asian Americans. Find out, no, where your people from? Where they at? We want to know who is it that's being a part of this. So his parents immigrated to this country, and now their kid was a part of unraveling things that was already kind of set. And there was reasons for affirmative action to be set. But I'm not a fan, and I get to why I'm not a fan of affirmative action either. But let's continue. He said that I was scared, of getting backlash on social media. It said for it. He told Fox News at that time. He said, for fighting for what I think is a really important issue, say Students for Fair Admissions. They said Wang said we're willing to be honest with him about his chances and about how he was being discriminated against. Now, he said, I gave them my test scores and then they must have ran the model on that. It said they told me I had a 20% chance of getting accepted to Harvard. It said as an Asian American and a 95% chance as an African American. I didn't know that. And we'll look at actual data to back up why he's lying. He said Wang now attends Georgia Tech and has no worries about potential backlash for his future career. He said, I feel like I'm looking back 10 or 20 years from now. He's saying if I didn't do it, he said, speak up, I'll be pretty upset with myself. So that was what was said about him at the time. Now, let's get into the actual demographics of who was accepted to Harvard and UNC, because that's the two schools that were brought up in the Supreme Court case. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're taking this data straight from Harvard themselves, out of the Harvard Crimson. So this is the class of 2023. Now, as you can see, this is a breakdown of everybody that was there in 2023. Hispanic or Latinx, 11.1%. American Indian or Alaska Native, 1.2%. Asian, 22.6%. Black African American, just 10.1%. This is Harvard. Pacific Islander, 0.8%. South Asian, 5.8%. So they have two categories of Asian here, but they're still Asians. So their number between the 5.8% and the 22.6% put them well over 28%. That's double the number that's if we're talking about black or even Hispanics. And then white, of course, trumps all of them at 47.2%. But Mr. Wang, he wasn't talking about why so many white students was in there. He was focusing on the black ones. Now let's go to UNC, the other school. This is how it broke down on this. Undergraduate admissions. American Indian, 1%. Asian or Asian American, 22%. Black or African American, 10%. Hispanic, 10%. White or Caucasian, 65%. So more white folks are at UNC than even at Harvard University. Now, legacy admissions, let's talk about that. Legacy admissions, which is people that had a parent, grandparent, cousin, auntie, etc. Just because they went to the school, they kid can get in, or uncle or cousin or whoever get in. So as you can see here, they said that 43% of the white students admitted to Harvard University were recruited athletes, legacy students, children of faculty and staff on the dean's interest list, applicants whose parents or relatives who donated to Harvard also. So if your people donated to Harvard, you can get in. But Mr. Wang, he wasn't talking about that. Just worrying about black folk. It said that number drops dramatically for black, Latino, and Asian American students, according to the study, with less than 16% each coming in from those categories. The study also found that roughly 75% of white students admitted from those four categories labeled ALDCs in the study would have been rejected if they had been treated as white non-ALDCs. Almost 70% of all legacy applicants are white, compared with 40% of all applicants who do not fall under those categories. They say removing preferences for athletes and legacies would significantly alter the racial distribution of admitted students, with the share of white admits falling and other groups rising or remaining unchanged. Harvard's accepted rate for 2023 is just 4.5%. As you clearly saw, Asian American students, or Asians in general, had a higher acceptance rate to Harvard, to UNC, than black folks, than Hispanics, than Native Americans. Even all of them combined didn't even match up the Asian numbers. Yet he was upset that he wasn't part of the 20+% that was accepted to Harvard University. And as you saw, Harvard University has a 4.5% acceptance rate, one of the hardest schools to get in the country. But one thing, if you remember, the part we talked about is legacy admissions. Remember, he was saying that I'm not getting into these schools, Caltech, MIT, Carnegie Mellon, Harvard. I'm not getting to these schools because of affirmative action and letting black people in. I didn't get in because of black people. Now, instead of him researching the acceptance rate for these schools and understand that your good test scores just may not be it, it just may not be it. Somebody probably had a better test score than you. Maybe they have a better essay or whatever than you. It's a lot of factors that could have went into that, right? But what happened was, when he felt entitled to be into these schools, he went to, remember, his friends and guidance counselors. Now, you know, his friends and guidance counselors you know the white supremacist was going to be in there. So the white supremacist told him, hey, John, you know, you should have been accepted to Harvard. I mean, it doesn't make sense for you to have a 1590 on the SAT and you didn't get in. But you know who didn't have to work so hard to get into the school? It's those black students. You see, those black students, they lower the requirements for them. And they don't have to work as hard as you. So when you see those black students on those universities, that's our affirmative action letting them in. They didn't have to do the work. They didn't have to do anything like you. They just had to be black and get in. So when you hear these different Asian groups saying affirmative action, trust me, they're talking to the white supremacists. But remember what I said earlier, the white supremacist is playing a 3-card Monty on them. See, the Students for Fair Admission tried this before with Abigail Fisher, a white woman, and it did not work. So you have to understand the white supremacist new strategy is to use immigrants, non-white immigrants, to unravel all the gains of what black people fought for. You understand? So they're using these, well, as I said before, Johnny come latelys. They come after the fight. They come after everything is done. They didn't have to deal with the water hoses. They didn't have to deal with the Klan. They didn't have to deal with the redlining. They didn't have to deal with the church bombing. They didn't have to deal with none of that. They come after the fact. And because they feel like they entitled in this country to get certain things instead of just being happy that you're here and happy that he's in Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech is a good school. What's wrong with Georgia Tech? But he feels entitled that he didn't get into Harvard. And because black people are there at a rate of just 10% black people was taking his spot. But one thing that the white supremacists did not want to go after is legacy admissions. Now, you clearly heard the statistics on that. The majority of legacy admissions, 70% of them are white. If we're going to do things by merit, well, we need to completely do it by merit. Don't say, hey, let's get rid of the race-based part of it, but we're going to allow the legacy admissions. Because remember, his argument was that he couldn't get in because of affirmative action preferring black people, right? Legacy admissions prefer people that had a mama, a daddy, a cousin, a grandpa, or whoever, or who's ever heavily donating to the school. They're getting into Harvard over his test scores. And the Students for Fair Admission didn't say, let's put that in the case, because that's wrong too. See, affirmative action for white people is okay, but affirmative action for non-white people, that's a problem. You understand? So he didn't go after that whatsoever. Now, how the 3-card Monty is played. So you use a Chinese American, you use them to unravel race-based admissions. Why was that originally put in? It was put in because black folks couldn't get into particular schools. They say, oh, you black? You're not getting in here. I don't care what your grades are. You're black. You're gone. That was the reason why it was initially put in, to say, hey, you gotta give black people a chance to get in here so they can get some of the top tier education too. It can't just be an all white affair. That's why it was put in. But see what happens when people don't have to suffer anything? When people didn't have to see their family members swinging from trees? You see what happens when people come into this country and they didn't have to deal with the redlining, they didn't have to deal with the Klan, they didn't have to deal with the police, they didn't have to deal with anything. They don't respect the fight, they don't respect the sacrifice, and they don't mind destroying anything that built that for the advantages of them coming in here. And as a lot of black Americans starting to see, one fatal mistake that was made by our community was getting behind the 1965 immigration bill. Because if we wouldn't have got behind that, that wouldn't have passed. And we're suffering today now because of that 1965 immigration bill. Let's call it what it is. The white supremacist is using the immigrants to attack and to try to roll back everything. You understand what I'm saying? So now you made a deal with the devil and he put you up to doing it. So now when people are upset, they can't point at the white supremacists, they pointing at the Asian community. And that's just like what the devil do. He gets you to do his dirty work. And then when the rubber meets the road and everybody mad, he gonna say, it wasn't me, it was him. He don't look, we was think that, we were behind him, but he didn't want to push the case. It was him. So go after him. Already a lot of black folks was upset about the anti-Asian hate crime bill, right? So black folks are upset with that. Some black folks, but I'm gonna tell you why you shouldn't be too upset. Was upset with this. So they're saying that you see how they teaming up with white supremacy to attack us when we never attacked the Asian community like that. We have supported the Asian community. We have went to their restaurants. We've went to their cleaners. We've done everything with the Asian community and never had we never did anything. The Asian community propagandized us when it's been proven that white supremacists was the one that attacking Asians. We covered the story on this podcast where their own researchers said it was white supremacists and not black Americans. But they went along with the white supremacists because they will attack us, lie on us, as you could see, to get something out of it and care less what we have done to even help their particular community. This is why a lot of black Americans are like, nah, I'm good on the immigration, because look what happens when they get here. And then after the fact, oh, now y'all copping please. Cause I've seen that too. Hey, not all Asians feel like that. Yeah, you should have said something when it was going on. Don't come out here copping please after it's done. You should have been speaking against him during the case. You should have been condemning him way before the fact. You should have been saying something the whole time. Say, hey, wait a minute. That's not cool. Like, nah, he don't represent me. He don't. Now everybody copping please. Talking about, well, we're not a monolith. Yeah, after the fact, don't tell me about no monolith now. You understand what I'm saying? But what he don't understand is because those particular programs are put in place to actually benefit the Asian community, he's going to see, and even his community going to see, how that's going to come right back around and get them. You think you getting rejected now? Oh, just wait. We see the thing is about black people, we're used to rejection. We're used to being told no. We have been 10 times better than the white supremacists and still have been told no. We're used to that. But see, you come into this system and you thinking, well, I made this particular grade, so I'm entitled to be in Harvard. I'm entitled to be in Yale. I'm entitled to be in Boston College. I'm entitled to that. And what you don't understand is white supremacy don't operate on merit. It operates on race. And the one race that it operates for is white, not black, not Asian, not Hispanic. None of them. It's for white. Those affirmative action policies was just barriers in the way for them to build a white enclave. There are plenty of people right now who is very excited in these Ivy League schools and other schools to be able to keep even you out. Let's call it what it is. Listen to all the anti-Chinese rhetoric that's coming from our government right now. This is a great way to keep y'all out, because they don't have to put you in there anymore, because affirmative action is actually gone. Now, they say that race can be considered like as your individual story. Like, hey, I came from a struggling neighborhood, black community. Pookie and Ray Ray was tearing the block up. I didn't want to be like Pookie and Ray Ray. So, I got to school. I became a valedictorian. I stayed out of trouble. I did an internship here, there. I want to get, okay, you could tell your origin story and use race for that, but they can't admit you based on, hey, we need to have so many black students here or so many Latino students, etc. Right? So you have to think about it. What he was saying was that he was mad that black students Latino students, and Native American students was badly registered at Harvard. But that's the students that he felt that took his spot. You understand? Now, why I'm not worried about this too much is because them unraveling affirmative action policies, and why I actually support it is because affirmative action do not benefit the black community. Dr. Claude Anderson said that a long time ago. It doesn't benefit us. It should go away. We actually would do better if it goes away, because prior to affirmative action policies, we actually had more businesses. We had to work together as a community. We had to go to our schools because them folks wouldn't let us in their schools. You understand what I'm saying? So this actually could be a great thing for at least for the black community. But the Asian community, they thinking they're going to get in these folks' schools. It's not going to happen. They're going to start cutting y'all out of them schools. I'm not saying you can't get into no college, but you're not going to be getting in the colleges like that in the numbers watch. And we can revisit this in a year, and we will see what the numbers are. I definitely want to see it, because California did the same thing, actually. Liberal California got rid of affirmative action policies in college admissions, and their numbers of people who wasn't white dropped dramatically right after that. See, Asian Americans, you look at us, I'm going to say that. Some of you look at us and say we complain. Some of you say we lazy. Some of you say that we just see race all the time. But see, the problem is, a lot of you immigrant groups that come in here, you think you're going to play footsie with white supremacy. You think that, oh, well, they like me. I'm a model minority. Oh, because I work hard. And, oh, I got a business. And, oh, I got this. And, oh, I got that. Do you really think that these white supremacists like y'all? See, y'all going to F around and really find out. And when you really get into it with the white supremacists, you don't realize the bridges you have burned. You have literally burned a bridge that you could have had. Why do you groups come in this country and link up with the white supremacists, knowing the white supremacist is not loyal to nobody but himself? He will use you to do whatever he needs to do, but he's not loyal to you. You got to remember, they have no problem dropping bombs and atomic bombs, everything else in Japan and the things they've done in Asian countries. They have no problem doing the things that they've done to y'all. Like, have y'all forgot y'all history, the occupation of the Philippines, what happened in Vietnam, Korea? Like, it's like y'all don't think about any of that history. Y'all can care less about what the white supremacists have done in Asian countries. We black Americans didn't even do you anything like that. And yet you come over here and you want to link up with the people. That's what same thing. I just don't get it. I don't get the mindset. You want to link up with the people that's done horrible things in your homeland. Let's talk about China. At one point in time, China was in the third world because of the white supremacists. The only thing that y'all was smart about in China was y'all copied all the blueprints of what America was doing, made it cheaper, put a Chinese name on it, and sold it. Now that was a good thing y'all did, and that's why y'all made a bag too by doing that. And then nothing they could have done to y'all about it, because y'all was already manufacturing everything, because they're so greedy over here and they want to give Americans jobs. But you have joined with the white supremacists, and when I say this, I mean the white supremacists on both sides, because they joined with the white supremacists in the Democrat Party to get that anti-hate crime bill. You understand? They joined with the white supremacists on the right-wing Republican side to do this. So they playing both sides. I want y'all to see this. Everybody have no problem coming in this country, walking and stepping on our backs to get what they want, and they have no problem joining with the white supremacists to harm black people. That's why Dr. John Henry Clarke said we have no friends, because we see what they do when the rubber meets the road. They are trying to make sure to harm black Americans so they can get ahead. Now, and a lot of times they do that mess in their homeland too. They hurt other Chinese people to get ahead. So they bring in that culture of hurting their own over here. So they definitely hurt us. They don't care. We not their people. But this is good because affirmative action just in general benefits more white women than any other group too. See, y'all gonna keep on targeting, trying to do things to think you're gonna harm black people. And actually it's gonna end up harming the white supremacists too. Because you better believe now, since they struck down affirmative action with college admissions, trust me, it's coming down. Gender on jobs, that's coming. And what it is and what I've been reading, white men have been turned down for a lot of jobs because of affirmative action, because of they letting white women in. Not even black women, white women. So you better believe, because they said you cannot consider race. You can't consider it in college admissions. Well, the next step is you can't be considering gender when you're hiring for a job. Because remember now, the court said that they're using the Civil Rights Act, the one we fought for, the one we fought and died for. They're using what we fought and died for to unravel what we fought and died for, with these other groups coming in that are non-white. Yeah. So now you got them folks talking about, hey, my civil rights are being violated. Wouldn't your civil rights ever been approved for anything? You've been having civil rights ever since you got here. Black people's civil rights is on lease. Well, every 25 years they have to re-sign the Civil Rights Act. So you're using the Civil Rights Act, but they've been using the Civil Rights Act because the LGBTQ community has been using what we fought and died for and gotten more benefits off of the Civil Rights Act than the black Americans who fought and died for it. Yeah, just like that. So gender is going to be the next one up. And I think if gender eventually is going to come up, well, why are we trying to have these hiring quotas of these black people? Why are we having these minority quotas? That's going to come up too. They're going to say, hey, you're discriminating against white people's civil rights, because you're not hiring me just because I'm white, because you having a minority quota. You saying you got to have so many black people, so many Hispanics, so many Asians on jobs. That's not right. You turning me away because I'm white. So you violating my civil rights. So guess what? I'm taking it to the Supreme Court. And if they take it to the Supreme Court, 9 times out of 10, it's going to go. So, and if that go, bravo if it goes. Why I'm saying that? White women's the one benefit from affirmative action anyway. It's not black women, it's not black people. Number two, it makes you not comfortable no more. Because let's call it what it is, black America. You done got too comfortable. You done got too comfortable. You done got too lazy. You done got too ratchet. You done got just you not want to do nothing because you done got way too comfortable. You don't want to do for self. You scoff at somebody telling you to do for self. What's happening is they starting to unravel all that comfort from you. And now you're going to have to do for self. You will have to create your own job like we've been preaching forever. Like, hell, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was preaching forever. To do for self. Work within your community. Do for your people. You understand? It's going to get tough. And what Biden going to do? See, right now, the Democrats are saying, you see what the Supreme Court is doing? You got to go out there and you got to come vote for us. Vote for Democrats. What is Biden going to do if he gets reelected? That's lifetime appointments. It is. They don't have term limits. Now, if they were smart, they would say, the Supreme Court and all federal courts could only have one 10-year term. That's it. Just like they need term limits in Congress. They got term limits on the president. Why don't you do term limits in Congress? I say that. No problem. All of them should be like this. You gonna go along the lines of the president. You got two 4-year terms in the Senate or the House. That's all you can. That's all you can get. Scrap that for every 2 years an election crap, and just do it like the president. And hey, cycle them out. Get them on out of here. It don't make no sense for somebody to be in Congress 30 and 40 years. No. Same thing with a lifetime appointment. If a person's a bad judge, like they're horrible, then at least you know, okay, well, shoot, we got to deal with them for 10 years, and after that, they out. You know what I'm saying? That'll be the thing to do if you're going to try to do anything, is to put term limits on these federal judges and the Supreme Court justices. That's all you would have to do. You don't have to expand the court, just do that. But they go, and then, let's think about it. If they can get rid of affirmative action, then the next thing they can say, well, why do we need the Fair Housing Act? Where you're saying that we got to rent to black people. Maybe I don't want to rent to a black person. Now, just now, today, in the making of this video, a white woman won her case at the Supreme Court, which says that because of her religion, she didn't have to make a website, a LGBT wedding website. She won. So what is there to say that, well, it's my home? Why do I have to, or my apartment complex, why do I have to rent to black people? I don't really get along with them like that. You're forcing me to rent to black people when I don't want to. See, you see where some of this stuff gonna go. I'm telling you, it's going there. And for the people that listen to my message since 2018, and for the people that have gotten their passport, they have made relationships with other places in other countries. See, they got options if they want to just deal with this mess, if it gets to that, or just say, I'm good, I'm gone. And you do know right now that the American State Department is they say up to 22 million passports behind. That's how many people are trying to get passports right now. I mean, it is a thing where people are trying to get passports. Why? Because a lot of people, even white people, see how bad it's about to get. And I told y'all before, one thing I'm always going to do is protect my family. Period. I don't care what none of you say. It is my job to protect my family. And if I have to move around to protect my family, that's what I'm going to do. I can care less what anybody say about that, because none of you going to protect my family. And it's not your responsibility to protect my family. But let's see what happens. Let's see. It's quite interesting. It is quite interesting. It really is. What we see going on. You see that guy Vivek Ramaswamy. He's an East Indian. He got up there talking about that if he was to become president, he will get rid of affirmative action out of everything. Another Asian trying to unravel what black people fought for. Then once again, this is what happens when you have people coming into the country who don't respect the history of the country and don't respect even why they had the ability to come here and make money. Once again, one of the greatest mistakes that we did as a community was get behind that Immigration Act, because right now that bill is biting us in the butt. It's not biting white folks in the butt at all. It's benefiting them, but it's biting us, in the butt. So, hey, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. Stay tuned, because it's really about to get interesting in these United States of America.